Hi folks, we're going to take a look at page 269, number 18. So what they're asking us to do is they're asking us to determine the exact value of sine of cos inverse of 4 over 5. Okay. Now they're telling us that x is in the first quadrant. So let's see why they're even giving us that information. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with this expression in the brackets. So cos inverse of 4 over 5. Okay, now if you remember why we used the trig button cos inverse on your calculator, it was to determine the angle which has this trig ratio. Okay, so let me write it another way. Let's say I give this a name. Let's say I call this x. Okay, this represents an inverse function. Okay, so this expression here is equivalent to writing, okay, 4 over 5 is equal to cos of x. Okay, so in other words, what angle x has a cosine value of 4 over 5? Okay, now this is why we see the need to give us a quadrant, because there's lots of angles whose cosines are 4 over 5. You know, there'll be an angle in the first quadrant, because that's where cosine's positive. In the fourth quadrant, then if I go, around another 2 pi from each of those, so there's infinitely many angles that have the value, the cos value of 4 over 5. Okay, but what this allows me to do is it allows me to sort of draw this out. Okay, so let's say this is my angle in the first quadrant, okay, which again we called x, and we know that the x value is going to be 4, okay, and the r value is 5. Now the reason why I'm going to need this is because what I'm looking for is I'm looking for the sine of this angle, which we called x, and now by completing this triangle I can determine what sine x is. Okay, so I don't think there's really any work to do. Hopefully we can all see that this is going to be the 3, 4, 5 triangle. So that means that sine of this angle cos inverse of 4 over 5 is just going to be equal to 3 over 5. Okay, so just to recap, okay, cos inverse of 4 over 5 does not represent secant of 4 over 5. Okay, that when we use this notation we're talking about the inverse, as in the inverse function. Okay, so what this represents is it represents an angle whose cosine value is 4 over 5, but because there's many of those, we need to know what quadrant x is actually in, because had it been in the fourth quadrant, well then our sine value of course would have been negative. Okay, that's it for this one.